They were astounded to discover it was just a basic line map taken from a junior high school textbook. Little to no detail, certainly no aviation.
What the
airport
fuck?
Officials understandably had little.
They just condemned this plane.
This was ridiculous.
They said, "Fuck them."
There was no way they could
give him
fly
my
to North Korea
child's homework.
I'm Kento Bento. This will be part 1 of a 2-part series.
Thanks for your Moisty.
Possible by Nebula and Curiosity Stream. Tokyo, March 1970. 31,000 feet up in the air. Japan Airlines Flight 351 was reaching its cruising altitude. It had left Tokyo's Haneda Airport no more than 10 minutes ago and was set to land in Fukuoka in an hour's time. This was to be a relatively short flight, a domestic affair. But little did the passengers and crew know it was going to be neither, as Japan Airlines Flight 351 was about to undergo a harrowing ordeal. On the plane were 122 passengers, tourists, businessmen, first-year uni students, doctors on their way to medical conferences, really people from all walks of life, and including a few notable individuals like the high-ranking Pepsi executive, the talented bass player from the up-and-coming rock band Hijacking, and the Roman Catholic priest from New York. Yes, this was a diverse mix, with people of varied experiences and professions, but nothing could have prepared them for what was to come.
DB Cooper.
At about 7:30 a.m., as the plane
DB Cooper fucking hops in here and takes this shit over.
A young Japanese man got up from the seat to make a special announcement.
Thanks to the Risa Baraz pasta.
He was hijacking the plane.
Oh.
This man was Takamaro Tamiya, a 27-year-old recent graduate. Now, this announcement wasn't met with as much terror and panic as one would expect, as this was the year 1970, when airline hijackings weren't illegal. It wasn't yet considered an international crime. Yes, people were concerned, some more than others.
Well, it's not a crime. You can't do anything about
Piracy
it. Good work.
Is not how it is
Loophole.
today. But this was about to change, as Takamaro Tamiya proceeded to pull out a samurai sword.
Oh.
Yes, a samurai sword.
That is anime shit.
The seriousness of the situation.
Jesus Christ! It's Batosai, the plane stealer.
122 passengers was a lot for a single hijacker, which is why he didn't come alone. With everyone now in a state of panic, Tamiya's accomplices began to make themselves known one by one.
Thank you, Keyheart.
The university students had revealed themselves. Now, this was unexpected and bizarre. Many of the students were still in their early years at Tokyo and Kyoto universities, two of the most prestigious universities in all of Japan, with the youngest among them being just 16 years old, actually still in high school. Just like their leader Tamiya.
Well, half of anime takes place in high school.
Not just that, some had
not surprising.
And homemade pipe bombs as well. This was confusing and terrifying. As they tried to break into the cockpit, the distressed pilots radioed in for help, relaying the dire situation on board. It seemed it wasn't long until the hijackers would make their way in. The rest of the students were now tying the male passengers down to their seats as ordered by their leader. Now, it was certainly an odd sight to see such young Japanese recruits involved in this act of terror, 9 in total. But the most surprising of all, perhaps, was the identity of one particular hijacker. He was the bass player of the up-and-coming rock band Hijacking.
Oh shit!
It wasn't a joke. His name was Moriaki Wakabayashi, and he was in it just as much as his fellow comrades. It was time to end things. With the cockpit finally breached and the pilots restrained, the samurai skyjackers were now in full control of Japan Airlines Flight 351.
And they played a fucking crazy concert.
So laxed as to allow samurai swords, pistols, and pipe bombs to be this easily smuggled onto a plane. But 1970 was a different time, and well, the demands of the hijackers reflected that. You see, the reason they took control of the plane was to fly it across the Pacific Ocean to the Caribbean, specifically to Havana, Cuba. This was to be their final destination. With Cuba being a communist haven led by revolutionary Fidel Castro, the 9 men wanted to make a grand political statement to the world, hijacking a passenger airliner right out of Tokyo and diverting it to Cuba, the country of their dreams. As members of the
very surprising.
Communist militant group hell-bent on overthrowing the Japanese government and the monarchy, they wanted to establish contact with revolutionary forces in Cuba so that they could receive specialized military training for the impending revolutionary war they would wage upon returning to Japan. They claimed they loved their country, and this was the only way. But on top of that, they were hoping the act would inspire and promote rebellion across the rest of Asia. And this was just the beginning. Really, They wanted to start a world revolution, and they were willing to advocate it through terror and violence. After all, they had already long threatened to wage civil war in Tokyo and Osaka, and had previously been involved in violent street battles and a few small-scale bombings. Hijackings were their next venture, and these 9 men, young men, were the frontrunners. They had been targeted and scouted from leftist student groups from universities across Tokyo and Kyoto, and were now ready and willing to give everything to the cause.
This is a wild story.
This included Moriaki Wakabayashi, the bass player of the rock group Hadaka no Rarizu, which started off as a university band before their rise in popularity. Now, perhaps it was this very youthful inexperience and overconfidence that led to their first lapse in judgment, which awkwardly enough had to be explained to them by the pilot. You see, it was just not possible for the plane to make it all the way to Cuba, not even close. Why? Well, Japan Airlines Flight 351 was a Boeing 727 airliner, which was designed for short to medium range flights only, not for one making its way halfway across the world in a single trip. The plane was simply not—
We'll fuel it with music,
much less to Cuba. And this was shocking to the hijackers, as they simply hadn't expected this turn of events. They needed a plan B fast, one that involved an alternate destination. But, well, even that appeared to be out of the question, as the pilots quickly informed them of an even more pressing concern. The plane was running out of fuel. They only had enough for the original destination, Fukuoka. Tamiya had to think on his feet. Time was ticking. Right, well, if they had to land in Fukuoka, then they'd land in Fukuoka, but on their terms.
Yeah, this is our landing.
The Japanese Ministry of Transport—
we did this one.
Hijacking, and was entrusted with the task of ensuring the
Thanks
safety of all the passengers. A member of the department, Vice Minister Shinjiro Yamamura, would directly oversee the hostage recovery efforts. Of course, word also got around to the news outlets, who quickly reported on the incident live. This was a first for Japan, as never before had they experienced the hijacking of an airplane. This shocked and horrified the entire nation. At 9 a.m., Japan Airlines Flight 351 touched down at Fukuoka Airport, where they were met by a horde of spectators and members of the media.
Wow, like celebrities.
In surrounding the plane, as they readied themselves for the eventual standoff. With 129 hostages on board, 100—
they have an actual sword fight.
Crew members, the hijackers felt that they had the upper hand. But it all would rest on the negotiations. As Yamamura and the authorities prepared themselves, the negotiations began. For the next few hours, the two sides went back and forth, both unwilling to budge, with Tamiya threatening to kill every last one of the hostages if his demands weren't met. This was an intense negotiation, with a lot at stake, but eventually, an agreement was reached. So the deal was for the hijackers to release 23 of the passengers in exchange for more fuel, but it had to be enough fuel to get them to their new destination. Now, Havana, Cuba, was no longer an option. It was too far. So they had to settle for one within reach. After much discussion and consideration, they decided on Pyongyang. The hijackers were going to North Korea.
Whoa!
Now, this made sense to the 9 men, as North Korea was another communist regime, ruled by another great revolutionary, Kim Il-sung, grandfather to—
this is nuts!
They reasoned that flying the plane to Pyongyang would still make a grand political statement to the world.
Furthermore,
they had actually already planned for a brief stopover in Pyongyang, as the city had been a serious candidate to host their base of operations for their international revolution, and they wanted to conduct some reconnaissance while en route to Cuba. So all this just meant a slightly longer detour to North Korea. No big deal, really. Once the dust had settled, they'd figure out another way to Cuba. Viva la revolution! And so the deal was done. Tamiya got what he wanted, and even better, they still had 106 hostages on board for leverage. On the Japanese side, all the passengers released were women, children—
Kim Il-sung gets on the plane next,
which was fortunate,
picks up a samurai sword.
Not quite what they had hoped for. The majority on the plane were still very much in jeopardy. But now, it was time to go. With the pilots having never flown to North Korea and unable to rely on Pyongyang air control for guidance, Fukuoka airport officials had to quickly pass them a map of the Korean peninsula
Thanks to resub
for themselves.
Losing internet.
That would have to do for now. But with that, Japan Airlines Flight 351 fueled up and took off, bound for the Hermit Kingdom. Now, aside from the Japanese, there was actually one other group that was rather unhappy with the outcome thus far, and that was the Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA. You see, Langley had sent over agents for their own hostage recovery mission, as there were a couple of US nationals on board. The Pepsi executive Herbert Brill,
what?
Roman Catholic priest from New York, Daniel MacDonald. They had business to attend to.
What?
But now, with the plane heading towards North Korea, a nation known for their international
Pepsi guy?
And political reclusiveness, not to
maybe Coke planned this.
Contempt towards Americans, things weren't looking great. By now, Flight 351 was well on its way to Pyongyang. It had crossed the Tsushima Strait, flown over the Korean mountain ranges, and had just about reached the DMZ, the Korean Demilitarized Zone. This 38th parallel is a contested border dividing the Korean peninsula into North and South Korea. Once past this point, there would be no turning back. But on top of that, the pilots were having a hard time with navigation, as they were unfamiliar with the flight route. Seeing as the countries had no diplomatic ties, Japanese airlines and airport controllers were simply unable to make contact with their North Korean counterparts. The Japanese pilots didn't even know where the airport in Pyongyang was located. Sure, they were given a map by airport officials shortly before leaving Fukuoka, but they were astounded to discover it was just a basic line map taken from a junior high school textbook. Little to no detail, certainly no aviation.
What the
airport
fuck?
officials understandably had little.
They just condemned this plane.
This was ridiculous.
They said fuck them.
There was no way they could
give him my
North Korea
child's homework.
Moreover, the North Koreans had no idea they were even coming, a major cause for concern. It's common knowledge among pilots that the airspace above the DMZ...
Well, this is the 70s, it's not like North Korea could shoot it down. What are they going to do, take spitballs to it?
Entering could be shot down for any reason, with no grounds for redress. If this were to happen, it would surely precipitate an international incident. As such, the pilots tried desperately to make contact with the Pyongyang control tower,
Tier 1
attempting to warn them of their unique
Hope you're having a good night, HL2.
Pyongyang, please respond. Pyongyang. This is JA Flight 351, Pyongyang. Please respond. Nothing. The pilots frantically warned the hijackers of the potential fiery end they could meet if they were to fly any further, but Tommy insisted they continue. He was steadfast in their revolutionary mission, even proclaiming that North Korea was no threat to them, as he would personally recruit Kim Il-sung to the Japanese Red Army.
Makes sense.
And so, the pilots
Pretty good
had
plan.
no choice. With samurai swords pointing at their necks, and with permission yet to be granted by Pyongyang, Japan Airlines Flight 351 entered the DMZ.
And Kim Il-sung was flying around like Superman.
Moments later, North Korean fighter jets emerged from the clouds.
No, God!
Fire at the passenger plane.
What the fuck?
They had entered North Korean airspace.
Holy shit!
But just like that, it was over.
Oh, they only had six bullets?
Pilots realized, well, it must have been warning fire. At that moment, there was a faint response on the radio. This is Pyongyang. This is Pyongyang. Respond. Respond. It was in English, but in a heavy Korean accent. The pilots, relieved at finally making contact, tried their hardest to explain their predicament to the Pyongyang control tower. This must have sounded quite bizarre to the North Koreans, as nothing like this had ever happened before. But despite the unusual request, after some back and forth, Flight 351 was permitted to land in Pyongyang.
Nice.
It would, however, be closely escorted by the fighter jets. Now, the hijackers were elated. This was what they had hoped for, acceptance from their communist allies. But as the plane continued flying deeper and deeper into the reclusive state, it was becoming quite clear to the rest of those on board, the passengers and crew, that their fate no longer rested in the hands of the hijackers, but the Hermit Kingdom.
Yeah, but they're nice.
At 3:19 p.m.,
They have
Japan
a
Airlines Flight
good
351
history of
touched
being
down
nice.
at Miriam Airport in East Pyongyang, where they were met by a swarm of military personnel. There were North Korean soldiers, policemen, high-ranking officials, but also, surprisingly, sympathetic crowds of civilians.
Yeah.
Welcome signs.
Oh.
A choir of schoolgirls singing North Korean greeting songs, welcoming the hijackers or, in
Damn.
defectors.
Fucking celebrities.
Outside the aircraft, an announcement could be heard, blasting over the loudspeakers. This is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, presided by the great leader Kim Il-sung. For those who are fighting against Japanese imperialism, we welcome you. This was a somewhat elaborate reception, and a magnificent sight for the student radicals, but for the hostages, it was deeply unsettling. It wasn't long until a North Korean official approached the plane to officially receive the foreign visitors. This was it. Tommy and his men were about to join their communist brethren. Now meanwhile, in a nearby hangar, the Japanese authorities and the CIA were getting ready to launch their rescue mission. It was now or never. All that was needed was for the 9 men to be lured far enough away from the plane by the fake North Korean official. This was what it had all been leading up to. You see, the hijackers had indeed ended up in the Korean capital, but there was just one problem. It was the wrong one. Back in Fukuoka, the Japanese authorities and the CIA failed to recover all the hostages. The negotiations did not go as planned, but there was absolutely no way they were going to let 106 Japanese and American hostages fly right into the heart of North Korea.
This is nuts!
They opted for the soul.
This is fucking nuts!
The plane ended up in North Korean airspace.
This is Death Note shit.
Think on their feet. Time was ticking. Right. Well,
that is a trap card activation and a half for sure.
In Pyongyang, but on their terms. This was their plan B. With the negotiations over, they sprung into action. First thing, they needed to get the South Koreans on board. If they were going to pull this off, there needed to be exhaustive cooperation between all three countries: Japan, the US, and South Korea. Something the hijackers could never have imagined. They had less than an hour to get this done. Now, on the plane, the pilots were attempting to navigate to Pyongyang, but they were astounded to discover the map they were given was unusable, a basic line map taken from a junior high school textbook. There was no way they could fly to North Korea with this. As the captain was about to throw the map away, he suddenly notices a handwritten note at the top corner. No aviation map, but tune into frequency 121.5 megacycles. He did as instructed. Not long after entering the DMZ, North Korean fighter jets emerged from the clouds, firing anti-aircraft shells at the passenger plane.
But that was actually the CIA.
That's who those on board thought was firing at them. In reality, this was the South Korean Air Force.
Shit.
Into thinking they had now entered North Korean airspace. Having tuned into the frequency 121.5 megacycles, the pilots and the hijackers then received a message from who they thought was the Pyongyang control tower. "This is Pyongyang. Respond, respond," spoken in a heavy Korean accent. This was, however, sent by air traffic control in Seoul.
This is like the most big brain plan ever.
Unknown to the extent to which the pilots were aware of this ruse. Perhaps they were in the dark just as much as the hijackers, or perhaps they were key coordinators of the plan themselves. Regardless, what we do know is that following the instructions that were received on frequency 121.5 megacycles, the pilots were able to safely direct Flight 351 back across the DMZ, eventually touching down at Gimpo International Airport in Seoul. That was the reason for the rudimentary map, because the Japanese authorities never planned for the pilots to use it at all. They were never going to Pyongyang.
This is
now,
wild.
The countdown was on. The hour was almost up. As the plane touched down on the runway, the South Korean airport officials were frantically putting the finishing touches on their makeshift renovation. You see, the final piece of the deception involved disguising Seoul's Gimpo airport to look like one in Pyongyang. They did this by covering up any South Korean related items and branding, and removing all South Korean flags, replacing them with North Korean flags.
How did they do that so quick?
Communist uniforms and North Korean military attire, and random actors performing the role of the sympathetic public held up welcome signs in the hopes of putting the hijackers at ease.
How?
Girls from a nearby school was even cast to sing North Korean greeting songs to add as much authenticity as possible.
This is like the conclusion in a thriller movie or something.
Blasting over the loudspeakers, "This is the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, presided by the great leader Kim Il-sung. For those who are fighting against Japanese imperialism, we welcome you." The fake North Korean official approached the plane, greeting the hijackers with a megaphone.
Thanks to the gift subject.
A shuttle bus to take you, the revolutionary heroes, to meet the great leader and premier Kim Il-sung. The Japanese, American, and South Korean authorities, meanwhile, were waiting in the wings. Vice Minister Yamamura was ready. With the ramp stairs rolled up to the fuselage, the hijackers prepared to disembark. They were riding high. This was what they had been waiting for. After sacrificing everything to the cause, their moment had come. This was a revolutionary victory for the ages. One by one, they made their way to the exit. What they didn't know, though, was that their struggles were far from over. This was only the beginning.
What? How?
Now,
they caught him.
The rest of this incredible story will be covered in part 2.
Wait, how is there more?
On YouTube in a few weeks. So make sure
your
notifications
weeks? No!
turned on. But there's actually another video coming out even sooner that you can watch.
What the fuck?
Events. If you want to know all about what led up to the hijacking of Japan Airlines Flight 351, who the mastermind was, why Tamiya was never supposed to be the leader, how the Japanese authorities watched on as the hijackers boarded the plane in Tokyo's Haneda Airport, yep, they knew. Well, you can check out this special...
This is the craziest story ever.
...to Nebula. It'll be coming out in April. There's a whole story to be told before they even step foot on the plane. And, well, you can also check out there what many are calling my best video ever, The Shocking Chinese Pork Bun Murders, my Nebula original show. But warning, it's terrifying.
Alright, I'm fucking excited for the rest of that. That is wild. What a story. Oh, I don't want to spoil anything, but I do want to look up the people. Thanks to the resub Unit, Decaf Milk, and the Prime Dante. This?
The year was 2008. And on a certain GameFAQs spin-off board, one user had decided to undertake a daring heist. Epitaph Philip, or just Philip for short, posted a thread titled, "My dream is becoming a reality. Operation Soda Steal." He shared some concept art drawn in MS Paint in order to demonstrate the plan.
Pretty genius.
As you can see, it's a bold design that's elegant in its simplicity. While on the outside you would appear as an ordinary...
This guy's a pioneer. This is pretty good.
Soda. In reality, the soda had gone down the tube into a discreet container located in the backpack. And Philip was almost done constructing the first version of the device. He shows off the cup with a tube sticking out of the bottom as well as the actual container itself. He writes, "Check it out. The inner venting
Whoa, what did he steal? Urine?
The straw. Genius
Jesus
engineering.
Christ, use it on coke or something.
Is very necessary at all, but it's a cool idea. I tested it in the shower and it works pretty well. I ran out of hot glue though, so there were some small leaks. Hopefully I can complete it by tomorrow and take it out for a spin. I might record it. Taco Bell never know what hit him." Many people were quite amused by this concept.
Is that a suggestion?
Some rightfully pointed out that this was a lot of effort just for several dollars worth of soda.
It's great to hear, Whoop-Ass.
Why can't
Glad they liked it.
Buy soda? It'd be different if somehow you could do this with gasoline or like gold or something. Soda is inexpensive.
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
Siphon liquid gold.
Rock my balls. However, he explained, "It's not about the soda. I probably won't even drink half of it. It's the accomplishment. And it's fun."
Aries.
In fact, there was actually another reason why he had no choice but to pull off a stunt like this. I'm sure you're aware that in 2004, PepsiCo released a Mountain Dew flavor exclusive to Taco Bell restaurants known as Baja Blast. Sure, nowadays everybody knows that they've had limited run retail releases in stores across the US
I've never tried that one.
But back in 2008, the only possible way to get Baja Blast was at a Taco Bell location, which needless to say is absolute tyranny of the highest degree. In a way, this could be seen as an act of rebellion against an unjust system. I believe you could easily...
Yeah, Matt and Danny love Baja Blast, but I've never tried it.
The morally correct thing to do. User John Cena 23 was the first to suggest Baja Blast as the beverage of choice, and many others echoed this sentiment. TC better fucking fill it up with Baja Blast. They only sell it at Taco Bell. It'd be so awesome to have a huge container of it. Oh, I'll get the Baja Blast. In terms of construction,
this is pretty interesting.
Despite the iconic look seen in the concept art, a backpack design simply wasn't going to be feasible because of possible gravity-related flow issues.
That's exactly what I was wondering.
He utilized a shoulder-strap duffel bag approach. He also began answering questions from other users. When asked about the cup part, he explained that he planned to buy a large drink at the restaurant in order to avoid suspicion. Then he'll switch it out with the rigged cup system when nobody's looking.
Thanks to the bits again.
Someone asks if he's concerned that it'll look suspicious just standing at the soda fountain filling up the same cup for like 10 minutes straight. He says that he'll try to go during off hours.
I don't think anyone would really stop you from just filling up a cup and pouring it into a mug and going back.
I recommend you pick a time where the restaurant is nearly
They don't have like Baja Blast security officers.
Viewable by the employees. Hard to find, but I can think of a few. Thanks, DTA. Very cool. Many people began offering engineering advice. Tycaro suggests creating an implement which could puncture the bottom of a cup instead of bringing in an already rigged up.
Oh!
Eventually, people realized that the soda
mad genius
in the top of the tank would noisily splash down and make the soda flat. So they brainstormed some alternate designs. Tilted Driveway points out that this particular design wouldn't work since the tube at the bottom would create pressure as the tank is filled up. Matt Johnson Extreme theorizes that using some kind of ramp could prevent the soda from going flat.
What?
Much theory crafting and MS painting ensues while people wait for an update from Philip.
This is like real science.
Know that he's still working on the contraption, that he appreciates
Next, someone's going to recommend a particle collider.
He posts another update the following day discussing his work on the project. However, he decides he needs a better container, as the one he's working with right now isn't airtight around the seal.
He's Prime Rover and Resub Lunara.
A picture of the new container and tube system, and the day
that looks like an actual shit bucket.
Ultimately, he ended up removing the vent.
That looks horrible.
Transfer tube since it restricted the flow of liquid too much, opting for a separate small tube on the top of the container. He also found an appropriately sized bag in order to conceal it. Moreover, he stated, "No guarantees, but I might try it tonight with a friend." He once again reiterates that, "I'm well aware doing this for the sole purpose of getting soda is a dumb idea. That's why I'm not only doing it for that reason. It's a fun project and will be a good story to tell. Not to mention it provides...
It is pretty interesting, I agree with this guy.
People wait patiently for a couple hours when finally he returns. Fucking did it. I'm gonna upload the video now. I'm not gonna spoil any results.
Wow, that's big, that's huge!
It's in 3 separate parts.
The madman pulled it off.
Or anything. Just upload them raw. Oh yeah, and I should note the filming is really shaky at parts. I felt sort of weird holding a camera recording everything, so at parts I put it down by my side to make it look less obvious. Yes, he explains that he was actually not the one.
Not gonna spoil it, I fucking did it, bitches.
He was hanging back recording the video for the internet while he had recruited his friend to wear the contraption and get the Baja Blast. About an hour after returning,
mega upload, let's go!
Containing the raw footage of the event. Immediately he is showered with praise from the community. People were very impressed.
Do we have the video? I want to see it.
Insane premise. Even I chimed in with some insightful commentary. Wow, this topic is mega awesome. When someone asks if the employees said anything,
it does sound mega awesome.
And I know this is going to be hard to believe. The minimum wage Taco Bell employees didn't really give a shit or pay attention to him at all.
Thanks to some Blue Jam and Prime Extreme Skills.
The soda. The container is 2.5 gallons, so I think it's safe to say we collected about 2 gallons. As of this morning, it's got a little fizz left, but it's definitely gotten flatter.
Thanks to some handlebars.
So
and the
this
Prime
is the part of the
jumper
video
cables.
where I should show you the raw footage.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, and believe me, it really pains me to say
Oh my god,
this,
don't!
I can't.
Oh.
I mean, obviously Mega Upload is down now, and sadly I am almost certain that this raw footage simply does not exist anywhere on the internet anymore. And I promise you, I was extremely
This is such a waste
thorough in my
now.
search. It probably still does exist somewhere on someone's ancient hard drive.
I'm upset.
And I watched it back in the day, so I can 100% promise you it did exist, but I can't show you the raw footage of the event. However, user Navy Greg cut the raw footage down into one short 4 megabyte video, which was also distributed and shared around by Philip. And thankfully, this video does still exist.
Oh, let's go!
The editing is kind of strange, cutting between the aftermath and the event itself. And it deliberately
Charlie recreated. I'm not smart enough to make the soda steel machine.
Here it is, in all its 240p, 4 megabyte glory.
Let's see where to start. The cup. Can I have your drink?
Oh my god, these guys have no idea. Taco Bell's about to get fucking robbed and they have no idea.
Cup. Extra large Taco Bell cup. Got beforehand. Put this funnel in here. Super glued it. You can see it comes out the bottom.
Thanks to resub Doge.
Then add this tube, which then goes through the sleeve of the jacket.
Oh my god, it's working. Holy fuck, he's a criminal now! Wanted by the FBI!
Down to the side bag. Which conveniently perfectly fit. I don't know if you can see, but man, there's some light. Bring it out.
Whoa, hey, don't! Fuck, don't show it in the store. Or in the restaurant. Oh, they might be outside.
Holy shit. That is a lot of Baja Blast. I told you. Alright.
I can't believe it. They did it.
More labor.
Science.
So,
fuck yeah.
That's pretty much it. Proudly say I'm one of the few people privileged enough to enjoy Baja Blast in the confines of my own home.
Wow.
That is
Incredible
crazy.
Stuff. Many people asked him if he planned on uploading his accomplishment to YouTube. This is what he had to say about the matter. I'm still considering that. I really want to, because obviously I want to share it with the world. Plus it's easier to view. But on the other hand, I'm a little scared of getting caught. Then again, it would be hard to track me down.
Well, the police aren't going to come for you for Baja Blast theft.
It's hard to imagine someone taking the effort to track me down because I stole like $1 worth of soda.
Exactly.
Or what, like $20 even, counting markup. Or it's arguably not even illegal at all, considering there are free refills, and I mean, it's possible that someone could even drink that much soda in one sitting if they wanted to.
He's really getting in it now. He's in the weeds.
What do you guys think? Is it too far-fetched that anything bad happens to me, / anyone even cares? Soon after that, he posted,
it's like a snuff film for Baja Blast.
Put it on YouTube, but a better edited version, and a clear disclaimer stating I don't condone stealing. It technically isn't stealing, arguably, and emphasizing the purpose being a fun project.
He's very
Due
cautious.
to events that would soon transpire, he would never actually end up uploading the video to YouTube. You see, a couple hours after he made that post, someone in the thread noticed that the 4 megabyte version of the video was already uploaded onto fucking collegehumor.com of all places.
Oh my god. It was
Looks like I
stolen.
just got ripped off. Yes, some fucking guy called Steve just went ahead and re-uploaded it without even asking, with the incorrect title of Operation Baja Blast as well, I might add. And apparently the
Thanks to resub
jackasses
Kappa.
over on College Humor had a somewhat negative reaction to it, although I can't find any of the comments archived. This whole experience gave Philip second thoughts about uploading the video to YouTube, and ultimately he never did. Thanks a lot, Steve,
You
fucking
fucking ruined it!
Despite this, apparently the video did receive a fair amount of views on
Thanks,
College
Prime
Humor
Weekend.
over the years, even inspiring a copycat incident in 2011. On YouTube, you can find some guy made a video called Operation Baja Blast 2, where he and his friends perform a similar caper. However, their setup involves directly filling empty 2-liter bottles. This guy directly cites the original video as an inspiration in the description, so clearly it had some fans. However, as the College Humor site is now defunct, I was afraid this video would be lost to the sands of time. However, there exists
for the gift
one
sub, J.
re-upload of it
Roberts.
from some random account in 2016 called Re-Upped for Justice with the description, "I did not create this video, I only re-uploaded it."
What a hero.
Here's a direct, personal message to you specifically, the person watching this video. If you see an
Congratulations,
internet video you
Billy.
like
That's
and you
great.
theoretically might want to watch it again someday,
That's
you should
absolutely
download
great.
it. Don't just assume it'll be there forever, that somebody else will do it. Anything can be taken down at any time for any reason. And the only guarantee you'll ever be able to watch something again is if you literally have it backed up
Thank
to your
you,
hard
Egbert.
drive. If you don't know how to download YouTube videos, don't worry, it's simple. Just go to www.google.com and figure it out.
It is actually a pretty good
Man,
tutorial.
What a ride it's been. Thank you for indulging me in listening to this tale, even though I haven't been an active member of the Dew community since 2007. I mean, after experiencing the Halo 3 game fuel, it was just impossible to go back to drinking regular piss-flavored default Dew.
Agreed.
Baja Blast is
Sucks.
pretty good too.
Haven't tried
A
that
few
one.
years back, they almost made it a permanent flavor. However, in what was easily the most contentious election of the year, they held Decision 2016, where it narrowly lost out to Mountain Dew Pitch Black, which
What?
doesn't even make any sense because Pitch Black fucking sucks compared to Baja Blast.
I've never even
as
heard of
clearly
Mountain Dew
evidenced
Pitch
by
Black.
The fact they already discontinued it as a
Oh,
permanent
that's
flavor,
why.
so there's no doubt that election was rigged. But don't worry, gang. Thanks to exclusive information leaked to the Dew Drinker Discord, we have confirmation that Baja Blast will be returning to store shelves this summer.
Let's go!
Some new upcoming seasonal flavors such
Whoa!
as Baja Flash and Baja Punch, and new movie
This
title
is
flavors
massive
like
news!
Riddler's Brew. So in a way, this is considered the good ending to this story. Thanks for watching.
Thanks to the resub, Voya. Wow! Man, that had everything. It had a wonderful story, incredible inventions like some Jimmy Neutron shit, and then some great news with new Dew coming out. Thanks, Dew community. Wowee.